What's up, folks? Casual Dad here for another Warhammer Combat Cards video. I just drove 10 hours from Florida all the way back home. I'm very excited to be home to see my dogs, who I missed, but it was a lovely, lovely weekend. There was a lot of hauling babies out of the ocean, but in a good way. So real quick, I'm going to cover the patch notes I missed. We're going to talk about the cards that have been added to the general pool, and then we're going to take a quick look at the new Vahl Battlepass season. So, patch notes, this was from a little while ago, but I didn't comment on it and missed it, so I wanted to jump in. Hope I had a blast during Skulls. And there's a new Supreme Commander coming in, as they've been releasing one every single month. And so this one, there's a new mechanic that is called Battle Tokens. It says, accumulate battle tokens through various in-game actions, and experience the thrill as each token carries a chance to unleash powerful effects. Strategize your gameplay and watch these tokens turn the tide of battle. This mechanic will be debuted by a new Supreme Commander in the coming weeks. And I don't know what that means yet. I'm curious to see it. We do actually know, through spoilers, who the upcoming Supreme Commander is, but I'm not going to comment on who it is, just in case you missed it. We'll leave that a mystery. So that's it for this one. Next up, we're looking at the new cards added to the general pool. And just real quick, what that means is that these are cards you will now get in your general packs. So like your 3-hour packs, your 8-hour packs, whatever. So you can get copies of these if you didn't have them before in those packs now. If any of these cards stand out as ones you're like, oh, that's why I didn't get it in a pack before, it's because when cards are released, there's a delay from when they're released to when they actually are cards you can pull from a random pull. So check your card shop every day, so you're going to see some of these pop up. You should get a lot of the new banner on the cards you open in packs for a while here. At least I just did, because we also just had a new season, and opening all of your packs for the new season could have included these new cards. So we got Severus Agaman, one that I really enjoyed because he had the Furious Charge and Precision Shot abilities both, so he could attack 3 times on the turn he dropped, which I loved, but he's been tweaked. I actually don't know Bastoris at all. Brother Scipius, who is one you probably... Actually, I haven't seen him either. He's the shooty big dreadnought. All right. Omega Cassis, who's the Primaris Company champion melee. Seraphon and Arteros, the Blood Angels, actually came up a lot in several campaigns. I've seen them quite a bit in play and just got my first copies of each in some packs from the new season. Pretty cool to see these. It's really good to see another Grey Knight in, and he's one of the cheaper ones and a little bit more ranged friendly. Just to have more variety of what you can do with pure Grey Knights is awesome. As a sub-faction, I think they're one of the more interesting ones because they have a Warlord who combos with their actual stats. So it's cool to see more of those in the pool. Then we get Lucas the Trickster with the old model. Yeah, because he hasn't had a new one in ages, but interesting one, and he's got Deathblow, which kind of, his rule in the Warhammer 40k tabletop for ages, I don't know if it's still true, was if a card killed him, it would die. Or not if a card killed him, if a model killed him, so whatever it was. Your Avatar of Cain rolls up and kills Lucas, both are dead. Just dead. It was a ridiculous rule. We've got a Black Templars themed Rhino, or Impulsor, excuse me. Sorry, it's the Primaris version, my bad. We got a couple Inquisitorial Servants, which is pretty cool because they're very cheap and combo really nicely with all of the Inquisitor abilities, which is going to be mostly Greyfax, but then also that mixes in nicely with Trajan because they're cheap and have cool abilities. Then we've got the Artillery for the Adeptus Sororitas. Of course, the shield, the other cheaper shield, Adeptus Custodes. Oh yeah, this guy. This was the Warhammer Plus model. I have one in a box, unassembled. Sweet model. Love to see it. And then, of course, the Cobra Hammer, the Manticore. This one, the day these launched in the general card pool, this guy was in my card shop for five copies for 50 gold, which, yeah, I got that. Then we got the other Tyranid Flyer. We've got the one, maybe both of the Norn cards. Just one, it looks like. Okay. So the Norns are the super heavies for the Tyranids. It's cool to see those in the card pool. They're pretty cool, but don't see a lot of play because they're rare. Then we've got the Trigon. That is the ranged Big Gribbly for Tyranids. Tyranid Prime, this one doesn't have Precision Shot. Not Precision Shot, excuse me. This one doesn't have Target Acquired. Instead, it has Inspiring Presence. Then we got another Inspiring Presence ranged Hive Tyrant. So we've got a lot more kind of spicy ranged stuff coming into Tyranids all here. I believe actually all of these are ranged. And even this Norn Emissary, if I'm not mistaken, that's not the Norn Assimilator, which is Psychic Melee. This is the Norn Emissary, which is ranged melee, which is cool. So seeing a nice sprinkling of extra Tyranid ranged in here is really exciting to kind of bulk up what the faction can do in different varieties of gameplay. Love to see it. And of course that goes for all of those, all the way on down to the Behemoth Sporicist, which I believe that one has... I don't remember what it has. I'm not going to guess. I believe it changed at some point. Then we've got the cheap Drukhari. This is awesome to see these because these have been a definite gap in my Eldari section. I was lucky to get a couple drops and then saw some in the card shop, but having these in the general pool is great, especially this guy, Yeshak Zosh. That guy has Inspiring Presence and is dirt cheap, so to have that very cheap, like these are all really strong cards, it's good to see them in the pool. Very excited to play them as they come out. And it opens up a lot of options to do pure Drukhari themed decks, which is fun. I love an extra level of theme and being able to run different sub-factions within the factions. Same for the Void Reverend Bomber. The Harlequin Starweaver is the medium cost, very high hit point taunt card for Eldari. Very nice, very nice. We got the Big Game Hunter Saboteur for Tyranids. Ooh, the new Lord of Change. The second Lord of Change is now also in the general pool. Cool. Then the Land Raider for for Chaos. That is two really heavy, very bulky ranged attack cards for Chaos. Love to see that. That's going to be really cool. Master Possession's another Psyker. The Changeling is a very cool character, and that's a fun one to see in there. This is good and bad. So I keep talking up how much I've been enjoying anti-infantry, and we're seeing 2 now, maybe even 3, of the taunt vehicles, which have very high hit points for taunt, and are not infantry. So, sorry, I heard a noise. One of the best things about anti-infantry is that most of the most common and most powerful taunt cards in the game right now, the cheaper ones, is that they're all infantry. And anti-infantry lets you not only negate the defense from taunt, but also sometimes punch directly through a taunt card on the first turn, which is very challenging most of the time. But anti-infantry gives you an edge to do that. Now, if we see more of these vehicle taunt cards come in, that will kind of negate that, so it will make anti-infantry dramatically less good, but we'll make taunt better, and we'll open a lot more deck builds because you can keep thin, squishier decks safer for longer. Especially for Necrons and Eldari, it's good to see that. So I like to see the options open up. I'm curious what it's going to do for some of those traits. Ooh, yeah, and this one too. Give me another precision shot here. Yeah, and then let's go ahead and look at the actual battle season. Excuse me, wrong button. Excuse me, Battle Pass. Cool cosmetics, of course. Then we've got Vahl herself, so you get copies of her. She's legendary, so very rare, and a really strong piece. Very, very cool warlord. And one of my personal favorites, and also very rare, because she's a very rare drop. Good to see that. Triumph of St. Catherine. This is funny. So somebody in my clan must have bought the Battle Pass and got their copies of Triumph of St. Catherine because they went on a tear talking about how useless the card is. And said, it's like, what did he say? Let me actually look up what he said while I'm thinking about it. So we look at the other cosmetics in the past. There's some really cool stuff here. And I disagree with this assessment, but I do want to read it because it was very funny. Let's jump right in real quick. Yeah, so we got cool cosmetics. We got, obviously, a Sisters of Battle themed Battle Pass. You've got some very powerful taunt cards in here. Pretty solid melee cards, and then some good shields. So 1, 2... 3 of those cards in there have shields, and it's good to see those because they're also the cheaper shields that you don't see as much on Sisters. Because, of course, Servants have a lot of shielded cards, but they're mostly very expensive and durable. These are the cheaper ones that are a little bit squishier. This one's kind of a fun compromise piece, being very good at ranged and melee and also having those shields. So let's see, what did he say? Triumph of St. Catherine is really, 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 really bad. 3 reallys. Quote, what if Servants had Makari, but it cost 24 more points than Makari and had no real benefits until level 6 or 7? And he's not wrong, right? So Triumph of St. Catherine is a 30-some-odd point card, has extremely low attack stats, but does have the combination of Inspiring Presence and Shields, which is a really good combination because it's just Inspiring Presence that sticks around for a long time, but also has a pretty decent melee attack when you get to that level 3 or 4, which makes her a very strong budget piece to replace Celestine, the Living Saint, in your, especially your Canoness decks, because Shield is better with Canoness, being able to stick on the board for longer, because the Living Saint Celestine is very, very good. She's obviously one of the best points in Servants, period, especially in melee decks, but St. Catherine saves you almost 10 points, maybe more, and also has the shield, so it's a little bit more durable, does not trigger Big Game Hunter. So at high level, it's a very strong card. At low level, it is not. But you start getting your copies, that's how you actually level it up. So it's not that And we actually have the balance changes here. This is a cool one right out of the bat. So let's actually start this. Greetings, citizens. This season, as the shadows of the Night Lords fade, we are drawn to the radiant brilliance of Morven Vahl. Love it. Although the changes this time around are relatively modest, yeah, there's not a lot of cards, as we assess the impact of last season, especially after changing traits. So without further delay, let's dive into what's in store. Quick pause there. This is a very short balance change, which is one of the reasons I did the other two articles first. Yeah, because they've added a lot to the game in very short term. We've seen a lot of new bodyguards, a ton of new bodyguards, especially some added to the general card pool. We saw new traits added not too long ago. We still have anti-infantry sort of figuring in there. We've seen several PvP events, and then we've seen Supreme Commanders added into the mix. So there's a lot of new stuff spinning around, so it would be hard to make any dramatic balance changes right now because you've just got so much new stuff, and you don't want to push the scale too far in any direction until you kind of know what's going on. But got some older cards mostly getting attention here, especially in theme with the season. So first up, we've got Sister Bakaria, who's long been one of my favorites because she's really good for starting out players. I believe she's common, fairly cheap, has a good ranged attack, and has shields as a base trait. So a great card when you're starting out, when you really need to have stuff that sticks on the battlefield because your other stuff is dying so quickly. Very good, so a ranged fighter, but only has ranged attack, no melee whatsoever, and definitely faded, so I barely use her at all now that I've gotten my cards fairly high level. This helps a lot, so she goes from cost 11 down to 9, which is awesome, and otherwise sort of keeps the same traits, but being in the 9 cost range makes her really good. Just extremely efficient pick for any kind of ranged soup you're running. Classic card that relies heavily on its shields to bring value, there we go. But at 11 points in mono attack, it may be too expensive for what it offers. Maybe, because we're judging the impact of things. Also got a pretty big nerf in that anti-infantry does affect her. So it's that much easier for bigger, beefier cards to punch right through her shields. I've found that in play she does tend to die a lot faster than she used to, just because of some of the stuff out there, like the buff to poison, anti-infantry being a trait at all, both really kind of take away her value, so this is a great change. Love to see that. We'll see if she makes an impact. We got Amalia Novena, who I almost never run because mine is too low level, truth be told. So another iconic Sisters card, while decent as a roadblock because of the shields, like many older Sisters cards, such as the recently adjusted Custodes, doesn't have meaningful attack stats to back it up. And honestly, I just don't play this card because mine is so low level, she's never really been worth it. So she got plus 10 ranged attack, which is a great combo with Bakaria, because now running both of them doesn't feel like a waste, because Novena at medium to low levels always had a much higher melee than ranged, but not enough melee to really be worth taking and not enough range to really work as that primary attack trait. So I always ended up going cheaper or more expensive for her. With these two both adjusted, it's definitely worth taking another look. Then, of course, the next one. So most often, I would not take Novena. I would find the points for Lumina because her melee was much better. A little bit more expensive, but just a better card in most decks, especially, again, if I was going melee, which is more of the Servant's kind of primary trait. So these three would work really, really well in a buffed non-Supreme Commander Magus deck. So the buff that now, when a friendly card dies, your deployed cards get 30 hit points would be really good with shielded cards because they're banking those hit points while their shields are still up, which makes them very durable. And of course, they're also extremely efficient in points, so works out well. Also, because they're cheap, they could work really well in a Greyfax deck. If you do a shield spam Greyfax with Sisters, they now are very flexible in melee and ranged and have a really good combination of cost to traits, or cost to attack stats. Right on track, Palatine Erica Lumina, similar to the other shield cards, fails to deliver much damage. Like, even the descriptions for why these patch changes were made are very terse. It's very like, yeah, it wasn't good. And then last, this is an interesting one. No, there's one more after this one. Or I won't even say that. I don't know how many more. So we've got the Penitent engine, which is one of the mainstays of the faction and comes up a ton. We do see it used a lot. So I'm a little bit surprised to see this get a buff, especially a 2-point cost reduction, which is phenomenal. I'm really excited to do this because I will say, especially with the Custodian's buff, I had been finding other stuff in place of this more recently, but I also just hit the level where I got the significant damage bump and that melee damage in the upper levels. So I was just going to look at it again, so this is a very timely change. Another classic that is slowly being replaced and only keeping up due to the level most players will have it at, yep. Therefore, a slight cost reduction is more than fair, sure. So if you have a lot of the new cards but they're lower level, this is one you would keep in your deck because it could still punch better than those for now. So that's a cool change, kind of keeping ahead of the meta as it changes. Okay, cool. So this is the last one. So that the Penitent Engine I saw a lot, and I'm going to continue to see, but now you can just fit more around it, which is really nice. And then Junith Iruita is one I've always wanted to work and just never does it. So I'd love to see this change. At the price point, most Barrage cards deliver a big punch, and given her Inspiring Presence as a secondary trait, the buff is often overruled by other more focused Inspiring cards. So swapping Inspiring Barrage around in her trait list and upping her range should make her more viable in various roles. One of the key things here is that I talk a lot about the primary versus secondary traits. For Barrage, if you have Barrage at all, the benefit's already kind of there. Getting Barrage rank 2, 3, 4, whatever. It doesn't matter as much as just having Barrage at all. Because the biggest thing about it is clearing shields and clearing Akaran cards. So doing extra damage to other stuff adjacent is nice, but that's never been the biggest thing about Barrage. It's just having Barrage at all. So this flip, having this Inspiring Presence be the primary trait, gives her a much bigger buff to the board, much bigger buff to herself, and she still has Barrage, but she's epic, so you have to have her at least level 9 to get Barrage at all. So it both adds to her value, but makes her much more of a premium card because you need a high-level version of her to get the benefit of Barrage. So it's a good change. It's a mixed change. The flat +6 to a ranged attack is good too. I'm curious to see where this fits her in. Notice the theme is very much on a ranged heavy Sisters deck, which is interesting. So I'm definitely going to play around with that and use all of these cards, except, well, if we're doing ranged, I'll probably skip out on the Penitent Engine, but we'll see. And so having her in there, I don't think mine is level 9, so I won't benefit from the secondary trait, but I'm still going to try it because I do like her. And she hasn't always had Barrage, so it's kind of interesting to see that change. So that's it for the balance changes. Not a whole lot to tuck into here, which makes me very excited about the near future, because if this stuff is light, it implies heavily that we are looking forward to big changes ahead. So that's that. We'll leave it there. See you out there.